You know, how can we how do we know our personality? Like, do we know? We don't know everybody else's personality, but that's something we can learn as we build relationships and stuff like that. You're not gonna like everybody, but you gotta love some people. You gotta love some people that you work with. You ain't gonna like how they talk to you, and you're trying to help them, but you got to. That's a social skill you have to grow in. Some people are always angry, and you gotta learn how to, like, okay, let me be happy and try to just be happy, and hopefully my happiness could break through their anger. You know, and that's that speaks of social love.
And that also part of my story, they left people with no tiny bit. So it's what it is.
Also,
Time.
It's a story like this is what happened to me. This is what happened to my loved one. You know, they recovered. We heard some stories today. People, as they shared their stories, how long they've been fighting a good fight of recovery.
Because I know I've lived in a mess. I live with my life jacked up, and I've lived in a good place too, right? So it's like, okay, so there's chaos going on and there's people fighting, but I can walk into that situation and oftentimes calm it down. Bring a whole environment in, right?
I'm going to have a relationship with you if I don't know how to have a relationship. You know, I have to learn to have a relationship with myself. I have to learn to set myself out to dinner. I have to learn to take myself out to dinner.
By this sign right here, in the past with your past. But today I'm not living this way. I'm living a different way. And that's for the future.
Awesome. Awesome.
There's nothing to remember it properly. I used to.
We're talking about financial wellness, and doesn't spiritual wellness link to that very closely? Because how you know, everybody don't get it, and if you're not spiritually rooted, it's going to be hard to think of anything financial, especially when you're first starting out. You don't have the money, you don't have a budget, you know, you get your money, and it's all spiritual wellness to believe that it's going to get greater later. You know.
Time.
Still Chris Williams. Another message that's constant is God bless to everyone. So I'll give some details about my experience that I had. About 20,000, well, not 20,000, 2008. Around that time, I vacationed from work, had a heat stroke. The heat stroke left me unemployed when I returned back to work because I didn't have enough vacation time. Of course, that shifted my mindset and led to confusion and depression. So also around that time, or about a year sooner, a few months, I was in a relationship, and my lady friend at the time was deciding to move to Washington, D.C. So my understanding of home and support and love was entirely different. But an option that I had was to return to my family home. When I returned there, they didn't understand the change I was going through a depression. So I felt unwanted and ashamed for kind of getting off balance with my usual flow of life as a contributor or working man to multiple households. That led me to not even want to be in a home setting. So I turned to the street for reflection, think about what my next move would be. But as some people might know, depression doesn't necessarily give clarity. It brings doubt and confusion about where to go. By the grace of God, I was approached on the street one day. I might have just been at a park sitting, thinking on a bench. And somebody mentioned St. John's Hospice to me. It's a men's shelter in Philly, 1221 Race to be exact, that provides support services and free meals to people. And they also open the doors of their coffee house for people to find relief from the street to go and stay overnight. And that was a major godsend being able to stay there, especially during cold winter nights, where the only other option would have been to try to reconnect with non-supportive family or to just literally lay on the street and risk freezing to death. So St. John's Hospice was a godsend. I lived at St. John's Hospice in a coffee house for several months. And I ultimately became a resident at the shelter and stayed there for about a year. While there, I was still pushing through depression. I had a condition that was continuing to bug me too. I was experiencing difficulty with walking because I have a condition called gout. So that indoor shelter, the environment, the support, all of that led me to begin to get more mobile, more active. Of course, at that time, work wasn't the first priority on my list. Even though I love to work, that wasn't the first priority. I had to address the mental challenge of being depressed and the physical challenge of the gout flares. But lo and behold, after working out or just taking walks after dinner, I noticed that there was a group of runners out. They belonged to Back of My Feet, and they would recruit residents in St. John's and other area shelters to join their team to kind of get back into a groove of life. And upon graduating, runners would be awarded money for first month security deposit, last month security deposit, and monies to help address furthering education or paying off fines, etc. So I said, this sounds like a good thing. Instead of working out or walking after dinner, let me join this group. I gotta say that was one of the most satisfying opportunities for me at that time. This was about 2010, 2011. I'm still a member of Back on My Feet. I graduated from the program, and today, of course, I no longer live in a shelter. I have my own apartment, and I contribute to the Back on My Feet organization. I recommitted as of February 1st, so I can mentor people who are running to their miles. I'm grateful that God had his hands on me, and total strangers stepped into my life to hold me up. Nowadays, I look forward to extending my hands around people